Hey there folks, Wrel here. Going to be running you through the second dev update for Distal, a high fantasy, class heavy, D20 based tabletop role playing system currently in alpha development. If you like Dungeons and Dragons Pathfinder, then check it out. It's pretty fun. You can get the core rules totally free at distalrpg.com or playdisrpg.com. You know. Anyway, progress. We've released as of Wednesday the Steel and Stone update, which is Alpha 2. And it brings with it a bunch of so many changes, mostly to the formatting of this document. It's much easier to, I'm focusing on more high contrast readability. So all the headers changed, the text changed. It used to have this like pinkish maroon in a lot of the headers before. That's all gone. And there's a bunch of, we're starting to kind of bridge the gap into new player territory so that people can actually figure out how to play the game. Originally, first alpha was geared toward TTRPG veterans, people who have played this sort of game in the past, so that they can kind of like put the pieces together and say like, oh, okay, I know how this should work. Let's play it and see what happens. But now we're doing some new player introduction based content, and I'm gonna actually zip down to it here real quick. Let's do the playing the game. So there's actually a section for this now. Playing the game, running a session 0. I linked to a really cool article that talks about lines and veils for people who need additional guidance for that sort of thing, talking about how you can voice a character in first or third or a mixed perspective. Just some guidelines for, hey, this is how TTRPGs work for those who aren't as accustomed to it. But given that most people's foray into the TTRPG space began with D&D in the past handful of years, then I didn't want to dig too heavily into this and wanted to instead gear it more toward like, how do you play this particular game? So that being said, one of the things that I'm really excited for, and I'll just speak on it for a little bit, is a lot of times you'll play a game like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, and you have to stitch together why players should care about working with one another. You'll have to give them a good reason for meeting up in the first place, and that can be difficult. So one of the aspects of Distal that I kind of wanted to push a little bit further is, instead of being so nebulous, instead of leaving the player to figure it out, or the GM rather, oh, everybody has amnesia and then you're now in this prison together or whatever, let's ground the players more in the world and to say, this is how you start. So one of the features that I'm super excited about is the building an organization feature. So during your party's session 0, which is a session dedicated to kind of laying the groundwork for future sessions, we have this kind of team building exercise called building an organization that grounds all of the party members in the world. You've already gone through the character creation process, which includes creating a background. And backgrounds, they zip you forward, like they tell your story up into the point where you become an adventurer. So now we take that just a step further and say, okay, you're an adventurer. What does that mean? How did you meet your current party? Where do you go from here? And the way that we do that is very similar to backgrounds, contacts, by using prompts to kind of fill in the gaps. So, for example, like your organization specializes in, there are tables here to roll the dice, but we do not suggest that you roll the dice. For this particular type of team building exercise, go through. See what things, what circumstances you, and themes, I guess, you want to make present in your campaign. So, for example, we could say that our organization specializes in monster slaying and prefers to be paid in, I like a lot of these options, prefers to be paid in maybe not food and livestock. Let's do personal favors. So you've immediately said, this is how we do our best work. We hunt monsters, and we want to know like what the next thing is. Maybe personal favors is being put into contact with people who can hook you up with the next job. Maybe it's maybe all you need you're getting from the fact that you're slaying monsters. Maybe you're really really good about this sort of thing and want an audience with the king. Maybe the king's the big bad. That's kind of for your GM to figure out. But you say, this is part of our organization. Now we look at how well known are you. You are known locally, or maybe throughout the empire, or far and wide, or maybe known to rivals. You're known maybe in secret circles, or maybe you're known amongst the upper echelon. So it's the aristocrats that are really hiring you to do the monster slaying for them. Maybe they're the ones that can very easily provide favors because of their resource network. And then we figure out kind of the rest of it. So let's see. So you're known for, we'll go with, wait, hold on. Sorry. You're known among the upper echelon for, maybe it's your high cost. Maybe it's defying the odds. Maybe they give you the jobs that nobody else can do. And that's why your party's together. So let's say that, defying the odds and getting results. Very easy. Or maybe it's defying the odds and a strict code of conduct. So you're known, and this sort of thing, these little accents give you something, or your players, something to latch onto. When they want to, if they want to have like a strict code of conduct, maybe their organization is kind of military. Maybe that's the way that it's structured. Maybe the people that you're speaking to, you have to be on your best behavior. That sort of eliminates some of the like, oh, I'm a rogue, and I'm a lone wolf. Doesn't work well with others. This system helps structure that, and it gets everybody on board with who your organization is right from the start. So instead of asking the question of why do you work together, why do you care, the party gets to figure that out by working through this. To me, that's super cool. Feel free to roll some of this up just by yourself. Roll some dice. See where you end up. It can give you a good impetus for a new story. And again, it helps ground you in the world. It makes it so the GM has an easier time figuring out how people in the world should respond to you. And again, it gets everybody on the same page. Session 0. I think it's wicked dope. Hopefully you do too. And then just to take it one step further, if you want to come up with a fun name for your organization, most call you what? I would roll some dice on stream, but I don't have any near me. Most call you the Silken Noose. It seems pretty dope. Anyway, we go on to talk about running your first real session in the world. And this is just really sort of limited advice, but it focuses on running a one-shot. Currently, as of very recently, we released a one-shot known as A Trader's Due. And this you can see here. I'm not going to spoil it for you too much, but A Trader's Due, you can go download it from the Discord, or even just go to playtestrpg.com. You can download it right there from the website and run through. It's geared toward new players, so it's a level 1 campaign, or one shot rather, not campaign. And it is meant to also help a new GM get acclimated with the game. So there's like little reminders on things like, hey, you could ask your players to do a check for this sort of thing if you want to give them additional information. It also emphasizes some of the aspects that I'm kind of partial to when it comes to running a campaign. For example, have you ever been in a situation, I'm asking GMs, have you ever been in a situation where you've had a player roll for something, but they really needed to pass that roll in order to advance the story? Yeah, don't do that. That's something that I learned maybe a little bit too late, where you should give them a baseline for information and then have them roll to deepen that understanding of the information or to glean additional insights that aren't necessary to your plot. Sounds super obvious, but it's not something that, well, it's not something that I thought about, and I know that others have this problem as well in the early days when I was learning how to DM. So stuff like that exists within the new module. Go check it out. It should be about 4 to 6 hours, 1 to 2 combats, depending on what you do. And there's a lot of player choice involved or there's like 2 major choice points that can affect the outcome of the story. So run it more than once. Aside from that, we take a lot of the core rules and we move them into double columns for as far as formatting is concerned. A lot of the stuff is cleaned up. We actually went away from something that was called a difficulty check before, and now you can shake an effect once per turn. So some of the turn economy has been changed. Even the verbiage turn economy is now replaces action economy. We try to move away from the word action when it isn't when it doesn't mean your actual action that you're using, to try to get away from some of that ambiguity. I think actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there's some areas of the document that I need to move through to make sure that I've actually gotten rid of the references. But we're trying to call them efforts if it's just like you're making an effort to do something as a more generic term. And then we keep the word action as something very specific, being that it's part of your turn economy. So there's a bunch of cleanup like that. In general, things are just a lot more clean. And there's also some odds and ends that we added as well. Veteran mobs are meant for like levels 3 to 6, or actually might not be 3 to 6. I'm gonna go check. Yeah, so the way that we do monsters is that we tier them, and you have tutorial mobs, which are just meant for level 1. They're super easy to knock out. It's for players who are trying to get their feet. There's no real risk of failure there, and you can toss in like a baseline mob if you want to give them a challenge, and we do in the first tutorial module. So again, check it out. Let me know what you think. Hopefully it doesn't TPK your party. That would be bad. But we've added more veteran mobs. So the main ones that were recently added were these dwarves. So you have a blast miner, which uses it actually uses a blast hammer, which is an item that dwarves can become specialized in. And they hit something, and then they can trigger to make it explode, do more damage, and then they have to reload it. They also have a shield. The tomb carver is somebody who has they have a theme, which is sort of like a ceremonial dagger, but they use it to cast spells, kind of like a wand, which is actually something that you can do too. Just in the theme is a weapon that exists within the game, but they use it for channeling some arcane magic, and they can kind of they can weaken you and jack you up and slow you down and that sort of thing. And when they die, or when they're getting close to death with this desperation here, they can sort of detonate a stone object and make it shatter. So that sort of thing. I'm kind of setting these dwarven mobs up for a specific kind of encounter, something that I was thinking of turning into a module in the future. And then you have the Forgekinder, which is a large creature. Imagine a massive, just beefy dwarf who has like a big belly, and they have runes and lines carved within their body, and then inside of that is inlaid with a golden filament. This creature is like a living bellows. It can breathe in and breathe out, just exhale an air that forces you backwards. It can continue to push you away. So if you have an encounter where there's hazards in the world, for example, if you're on a platform, or if there's like lava, toward the boundaries of the place that you're fighting this creature. Here, I'll show you the stats. They can, when it gets desperate, also, hopefully, okay, I know there's videos for players too, but the packet's available to everybody. Hopefully this doesn't spoil too much, but this character, it has a hammer that when it hits people, it creates, it sets them on fire. And then, oh man, I'm just noticing a bug. I'm going to update this packet. It's not supposed to have this by default. When it hits somebody with a hammer, it also creates a burning space at that location. So the character needs to get out of that, which kind of enforces some movement around the battlefield. And then again, with like the breath of the bellows here, this desperation move, they can channel it. So they just keep blowing and knocking people back until they either get away or can disable that behavior on the Forge Kinder. And it can also like wrap people in strands of gold, and it can also kind of extend the golden filaments on its body and take on a sturdy, like encumbering, but a golden form to mitigate incoming damage. So it should be really fun to fight against when there's other mobs around too. And I really like this concept of pushing people around the battlefield, because all too often in games that I've played in the past, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't really give you a lot of reasons to move a lot of times, and then in Pathfinder they can punish you for moving, which is like why the 5-foot step was a thing, so you can kind of get away. And I like the idea of having characters be methodical in the way that they're attacking creatures and want to move around the battlefield and reposition themselves. We have a lot of weapons that focus on reach and different ranges, and just getting up and just the sort of stand and bang situation. I was really trying to give people more options instead of that just being the default that you run into every single time. So that is it. Steel and Stone. Tell your friends. It's out in the wild. If you have a table to play with, I would be so interested in knowing how it's going and what you would like to see in the future. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by the Discord, leave messages in this on the YouTube video, and I'm more than willing to answer them. Friday, going to be doing a live stream, so feel free to stop by, check that out too. And we might do some actual play-ish content in the future, maybe, not quite sure. We'll have to see. But yeah, if this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel. And if you'd like to observe the development and help develop Distal RPG, go to playtestrpg.com. That's it. Thanks very much, folks. We're all signing off.